In this video, I'm going to show you how to chart Sparkline graphs using API data within Google Sheets. So as an example here, I have a list of keywords and I've created a function that will actually go out, call the API. We're using Ahrefs API in this example, grabs search volume history or search volume trends and plots that data. It'll throw an error if there is no data available for that call. And you'll notice some peaks and troughs, and we can play around with how to improve displaying this information to the end user. So as I mentioned, we're going to be using the Ahrefs API, specifically the volume history within the Keywords Explorer. So you will need an API key for this project if you want to follow along, but it should work with any data API that you work with. Could be financial data. As long as there is a date associated with it and like a time bound, it should work. The Ahrefs API, if you have an enterprise account, the API credits come with it. You can also pay as you go. But as I mentioned, we're going to be using this Keywords Explorer, volume history, get request, and they provide a very helpful playground for constructing your API calls. I have a sample API key that I've already created and I'm going to delete after this video. I've selected the country as the US, but they offer many countries. And I'm just putting in what is AI. I'm sending that request and you'll see it's returning a metrics with an array of objects that have the date and the search volume on that date. So let's get into how to build this. In a sheet, I've added a column for keyword and a column that's currently blank for the search volume trend. And you'll notice there is a Sparkline formula that Google provides us within Google Sheets. That takes data as the first object, and then there's an optional options. So you could say chart type is bar instead of a line, which is what it defaults to. So just to show you an example, I'm just going to create a simple compounding chart. Closing the curly brackets, close the formula, and there's the graph. So opening up app script in the extensions menu, we have a blank function here, and I'm going to rename it to search volume Sparkline. First thing we're going to do is get the sheet that we're currently in. So get active sheet. We're also going to, I'm just going to speed through this because there's some boilerplate that will be helpful, and we use all the time in a lot of these projects, so they should make sense. I'll explain it once we get those done. Okay, so we're getting assigned the sheet. We're saying get the last column of data, which would be 2 in this example because this is the last column with data. We're also going to get the values of the range, which will be the active range. So in this example, we're going to have the user select a number of keywords that will activate the range. We'll get those values. And we're also going to get the row of the current cell, which will be like if you selected from here down, it would be row 5 because that's the cell that is highlighted. And finally, we're going to assign to a variable of SV growth column, looking at the range of the first row, the first column, 1 row, and we're going all the way to the last column, which is 2 in this example, but it could be, you could put it in any column. Get the values, essentially looking at all of the values in the first row. And then we're going to look for the index of search volume trend. And that's going to basically assign that column a name that we can reference later. So now we're going to write a for loop. Let I equal 0. I is less than range.length. So the range of the selected values, I++ to iterate over those. And we're going to say let keyword equal range I dot toString replace all. We're going to replace all of the spaces with plus signs. So if you have like a multi-word keyword, what is AI, you put a plus sign in between them, which is helpful for passing through to the URL, which we're going to grab from the API documentation. Actually, I'm just going to look at the get request down here because it's adds all of the information we need. I'm also going to rename this project Sparkline Google Sheets. We're also going to, so we have this string and we're going to add the keyword. We're also going to create an options object. And within that options object, it's going to be a method of get. We're going to pass in some headers, which is another object that will accept application/JSON, also application XML, authorization, bearer. And I'm just going to quickly copy the API key that I created. And that will be helpful for constructing the API call. And we're going to say const res equals URL fetch app dot fetch. We're going to pass in the URL that we just constructed above with the keyword. And we're also going to say options. Let's just look at what that looks like when we parse the res. So we're going to test to make sure that if we command S to save, we've selected the only function that's in this project. We're going to run it. So I'm going to approve this. I'm going to select all to connect with an external service, which we are familiar with Ahrefs. And it did not respond with anything because we have not selected any keywords. So let's select a keyword or a couple and command R again. Okay, we're getting all of that data in those objects of volume and date. Take that and we're going to say let metrics equal num.metrics because that's the first object that we want to get. And we're also going to say let search volume trend call equal sheet.getRange row plus I. So we're going to iterate over each row and the SV growth column plus 1 because it's on a 0th index and we need to just add 1 column over to that. We're also going to say let search vol equal an empty array and another for loop. Let j equal 0. J is less than metrics.length. So for each object in the metrics array, we're going to push the jth metrics dot volume into that array, the search vol array. And now if search vol dot length is greater than 0 and we've gotten a result, we're going to say search volume trend call dot set formula equal to, this is a string, Sparkline, like we showed in the actual spreadsheet, with the curly brackets, and we're going to interpolate in the search vol array. So those backticks help us then use the $, curly brackets, and the array to inject that dynamic data into the option. Else we're going to say search volume trend call dot set value equal to a string of trend data unavailable. You can make that error whatever you want. I'm going to command S to save that. I'm going to test it on 1. So I'm going to highlight 1 keyword. I'm going to come back here and plus command R to run it. And there you go. There's that data that's being pulled in. So search volume for AI automation has been spiking. You can imagine. So a few other things here, just which could be helpful as you think through this, is maybe we want to say, like add a note to the chart. When was the start date and the end date of the graph? Because it's really not clear when did it begin and when did it end. So we're going to say let last. We're going to cast that as a number. And we're going to say metrics.length minus 1. That should give us the last item in metrics. We're also going to say let spark start equal. We're going to make the date. We're going to grab the date and we're going to format it using utilities as a new date. And we're going to pass in the metrics 0. So this is the first item in the metrics, date. And that will be in GMT time zone. And we're going to say month, month, day, day, year, full year. Similarly, we're going to do spark end. Only this time we're going to put last in this array to indicate which item to get, which date, and that will be the last date. Now we will say on this search volume trend call dot set note, we're going to say keyword volume from spark start to spark end. Command S to save that. Come back over here, highlight some more keywords, Command R, and while that's running, we'll take a look. And here we go. This was search volume began reporting in 2015. It ended on the 1st of January 2025. And as always, I like to add helpful functions like the onOpen, where we could get the UI, create a menu. We'll call it Spark Charts dot add item. I like to tab that in. We'll say search volume trend data, and the function we're going to call is search volume sparkline. And we're going to add that to the UI. Okay, now when we come back over here, which I should name this too, SV Trends Sparkline, when we refresh, it'll close out the app script, but it will add this helpful menu so that if you're down here, you can quickly click that and grab some data. Well, I hope this was helpful. And I'm going to continue with a series on the Ahrefs API. So hopefully you're down to do some keyword research and use this SEO tool within Google Sheets and more. So thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next one.